Hey everyone, welcome to What's Cooking in Yaya's Kitchen. Today we're going to start out by dicing our potatoes. We're going to dice them all about the same size so that way they cook evenly and we don't have any pieces that are partially cooked and the rest that are fully cooked. So as you can see, I'm dicing a bunch of potatoes. My family eats a lot of potatoes and I have a larger family. So feel free to reduce the amount of potatoes if your family's not as large as ours. Once we have all the potatoes diced and in our bowl, we're going to cut our onions in half and peel them. We're going to slice them very thinly, or as thin as you'd like. If you'd like them a little thicker, that's fine. We like ours sliced pretty thin. So once we slice 2 onions for this batch, I'm going to dice these really thin. You can slice them a little bit thicker if you'd like, but my preference is to slice them as thin as I'm able to with my cutting by hand. Then we're going to separate them in the bowl with the potatoes. I have a second onion I'm going to cut and put in there as well. And again, as thin as you'd like. There's really no wrong way with this recipe at all. There's a lot of room with cooking for your own personal preference. So don't be shy to cut the onions how you feel. Even dice them if you'd rather them be diced. So now that we got the onions all in the bowl and they're all separated, then we're gonna slice our red pepper. I'm only using 1 red pepper in this, but we're gonna slice these relatively thinly as well. We want these to make sure that they're cooking through with the potatoes, and since we're gonna bake these in the oven, we don't want them super thin necessarily that they're gonna fall apart and they're not gonna be there, but we still want them to have some sort of like texture to them at the end of it. So then once we get all the peppers sliced and in the bowl, and again, we're going to use every bit but the seeds and the stem. We're going to add in our Italian dressing. This is so amazing. And you're going to want to add a decent amount of Italian dressing because we're going to let this sit for a little bit. And after we mix it all up and add some salt and pepper to it before we put it on our tray to bake. So we're going to toss these around, make sure everything gets a really good coat, and then you can let it sit. If you even want to, you can do this the night before you're going to make it and put it in a sealed container, whether it's a bowl with a lid or in a Ziploc bag, and then you can pull it out the next day to bake. We're going to pour these onto our tray. We're going to spread them out evenly, and then we're going to put them in the oven at 350, and we're going to let these bake for at least an hour. We need to make sure the potatoes are cooked all the way through. If you don't have an hour, you can boil the potatoes ahead of time and then let them sit in the Italian dressing, and they will cook a lot faster. Into the oven they go. They're going into the oven at 350, again, for about an hour. Next, we're going to make our chimichurri sauce. I got to tell you guys, this was the first time I've made it, and it is super delicious. There's parsley, shallots, garlic going in, and then we're going to add some more herbs like oregano that's already in there. I use dry oregano for this, as most recipes call for that. I have a fresh squeezed half of a lemon that I've added to it, and then we're going to add in some salt and pepper, and again, to taste. You can always add more, or you can always add more if it's too little. You can't take it out once it's in there. Then we're going to add our olive oil and our red wine vinegar mix into it as it's pureeing. This looks and smells delicious. I really wish you could smell this. Then we're going to save this in our bowl, and then we're going to add this to our chicken when we get that ready. So we're going to put this on the side once it's in the bowl, and then we're going to get our tray ready for the chicken. Now, a cleanup tip is I use aluminum foil on all my pans. That way I don't have to necessarily get it off from sticking on the pan. I just have to get it off the foil, and it makes it for a lot easier cleanup. I'm going to put olive oil on each sheet and that we're using. If you're using more than 1 sheet, then make sure you do this for both. We're going to put the olive oil on, and then we're going to put salt and pepper all over the chicken breasts. We want to make sure that we put on, again, a decent amount. Then we're going to slather on some of this chimichurri sauce, and we're going to let this sit on the chicken for at least a half an hour before we put it in the oven. And again, you can choose to bake this on it, or you can wait, but it makes a great marinade for chimichurri sauce, so you can use it as a marinade, and you can use it to top as a fresh sauce on top of your chicken, or any meat really, after it's done cooking. So now that we've got a decent amount of chimichurri sauce all slathered onto our chicken, we're going to take this and put this in the oven with the potatoes. So the oven will be set at 350. If you're going to make this separately, again 350, and you're going to cook it until the chicken's cooked through, or at least 165 degrees. Once it's out, this is what it's going to look like. Again, I wish you could smell this. This smells so good. Then the potatoes are done. Thanks for joining What's Cooking in Yaya's Kitchen.